You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you.
What do all men with power want? More power.
It's my time now. I only came here to do two things, man. Kick some ass and drink some beer. Looks like we're almost out of beer.
He was like a god walking amongst mere mortals.
You have chosen wisely.
I'm surprised. They don't see me coming.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Do you ever have that feeling you were just born for greatness?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Try to relax. This will feel a little weird.
Do not attempt to adjust your device. We are in control. Taking you to the deepest recesses of your mind. Bringing back lost memories and providing the best in entertainment. This is the Halls of Justice. He is your host, Justus.
And welcome to the Halls of Justice. I am your host, Justus. Nice to have you with us on this Friday night. Talking with us tonight, as we advertised, is Ronald Farnham. And Ronald is, he's an author, he's a co-author, he's a director, and we're here to talk about a lot of things tonight. One of the things that drew me to Ronald, he's got a lot of information on stuff that we like. He has a lot of information on government cover-ups, conspiracy theories, and UFOs, science. So what do you say we just jump right into this, Ron?
All right, that sounds good to me. Thanks, Justus. Hey, should I call you DJ Justus or Justus?
Justus is fine.
All right, cool. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, I'm excited to talk about some of the UFO stuff. I know that you're into that. And so let's get started, definitely.
Well, ever since I was small, I remember a show on TV. I don't remember the exact title. It might have been Project Blue Book, something to those, along those lines. But that's about the time I was growing up. So this stuff was first and foremost in my mind as a smaller child. So it was something I carried with me into the adult life. And when I saw that you have a ton of information on this stuff, it really jumped off the page at me and screamed, I have to talk to you. So maybe we could just get into it. What is the UFO agenda right now? And kind of on a side note, we've always heard maybe there's a couple of different races of aliens, the grays, the lizards. Yeah. So I'm going to let you take it for a minute here.
Well, I think that the UFO agenda has really been going on, not just in our solar system, and we could even talk about what our solar system really is, but throughout the universe and on our planet, I think the UFO agenda has been in place and been operational for very likely thousands of years, if not hundreds of thousands of years, and that the current iteration of the human race, here in the last 100, 200, 300 years, I think we've been indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking about the UFO agenda, the UFO situation, and what's going on. That's kind of a smokescreen for what really is more than likely going on. I'm former military government, so I use words like probably, likely, very likely, as far as the weightedness of how sure I feel about them, what's really going on.
Okay. So are there indeed aliens on our planet? Are they in positions of power? Have they been working their way through the government to get in those positions? Or is this something that are the UFOs completely made up by the government or even a secret society that may be controlling everything?
Okay, well, I think that there's a layered situation of what's really going on when you look at reality and what the overall source behind our current reality is, and then all of the players in the game that we call here life. I believe that we're in some type of a controlled environment, and that we have human beings all around us that we live in here within this environment that we are here on Earth in. And then I believe that there are other beings that we can't see and vibrate at a different energy rate, because what we're finding out now, what science is finding out now, is that everything is light energy combining with dark matter and interacting with our awareness to form kind of a holy trinity of what the physical is. You have light energy, dark matter, which CERN is trying to discern what dark matter is. And then you have our pineal gland, our awareness, our kind of conduit of a higher energy awareness, higher source awareness, experiencing the combination of light and dark energy that takes shape into an apparent physical. And I think that there are a lot of different beings operating within our wavelength and then just outside of our wavelength that are more intelligent than us and very possibly are working with our government, or our government is operating with them, our human government, which is really a corporation or a series of corporations, and that these beings can take any form that they want because they can control energy and wavelengths and the way it operates with not only dark matter, but how our awareness perceives it, kind of like cloaking. So it looks to me like there are, I would say, inner Earth beings that are also living in our atmosphere outside of our, what we can see up in the sky, and then working with our governments and underground bases throughout the world, with governments that have been around for thousands and thousands of years and are just taking shape and form and playing a game here on this physical Earth with wars, companies, technology, things like that.
Now, are there a couple of different species of aliens, and are some maybe the good guys that don't want us to blow ourselves up, and some are the more sinister type that want to encourage war and that? The reason I ask is you hear the stories about UFOs appearing over the nuclear missile silos and them all going offline.
Well, one of the things that I've come across through my research, and there are so many theories out there about what the races are. If you listen to people like David Icke, you hear about his theories about the reptilians, shape-shifting reptilians. I really believe that as far as the theories go of what the races are, if you want to go deeper into this, on the surface of this whole UFO agenda, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's kind of a negligible, it's as if we all laid out a board game with a bunch of pieces and we're in the middle of playing a game. When the game's over, it really doesn't matter. We can start a new game. And what science has told us recently is that everything is not solid that we're living in. This world that we're living in is more of a hologram that we're perceiving as solid. So let's just say there's 40 different alien races that are living on our planet, in our atmosphere, interacting with our government, and then maybe using the masses of human race, the 6 or 7 billion rest of us that are, 9-to-5ers, paying taxes and are subscribed to a corporation posing as a government. The United States of America is a corporation posing as a government. And so your Social Security number makes you an officer, an employee of that government. And that's just this huge game, or part of this scenario that we're living in, that science has determined and is telling us now that physical matter is really light wave energy, and it's a ones and zeros computer code. And there's a strong probability that we are all living in some type of a holographic simulation or a computer simulation. So any of the beings that are existing in this simulation, within this simulation that we are likely living or very possibly living in, are just other characters in this same game, part of the same soul and energy source. So when you look at the alien agenda, there's something going on here, but it's also part of a larger game. So I would say there are probably very likely reptilians, greys, various forms of reptilians, and there's various forms of greys. Now, those are the main primary aliens that we've all heard of and that I've heard of. And then there's also human aliens. You know, there might be beings that are also very similar to humans that are also living in other on other planets, coming from inner Earth and operating here on the surface of Earth. However, they also might just look like regular humans and be working, can be working among us, working for our governments, and we might never know it. I worked in the intelligence community for a long time, and a big part of intelligence collection is human intelligence, where intelligence agencies train people. They hire them, give them jobs, and then they go work out on that job in the field, and they collect information for the government. I think there's a lot of that going on, not only for governments, but for other races of alien beings that might be visiting here too.
Now, what's the chance of there being aliens that are sleeper aliens? They believe they're human, and at some point the signal will be switched, and then they realize that they are no longer humans, that they're working for a higher order, so to speak.
That's funny, because that's one of the topics that I put in one of my recent books, Hollywood and Vine, and I'm actually just about to publish the movie coming out here in about 2 months. I just finished the rough cut. One of the things I've learned is that our DNA strand only is using 2 strands, and that we have the capability to have 22 or 24 64 codons and active codons, and we use just a fraction of that. So there are very likely many of us, and especially from the UFO abduction field, people have been abducted for years now, and I think what you're getting at and what could be happening is that there could be a sleeper, unwitting sleeper army of beings that might one day all of a sudden wake up to like a code word or a vibration that activates their DNA. I've studied the Monarch Mind Control program and also the MK Ultra program, and a lot of the same things kind of occur there, where they'll take an individual and throughout its life from inception in the womb, where the fetus is spiked and pricked with needles through the mother's stomach. The baby's tortured all the way through, adolescence and adulthood, and controlled by a handler, and their psyche gets broken into usually 13 different alters that all have code words and a specific function. So you might have one, each individual has 13 different alters, and each of those alters, will perform a different act when a code word is spoken or, shown by their handler. And then boom, they turn on, and they never realize that, they might be operating in a cover altar for years and not realize that they're even slaves at all. And the same thing could be happening with a UFO or alien abductees that are being taken by either aliens or the government, given implants that carry a frequency, and then they're updated throughout their life and monitored as part of a, genetic and engineering project and a secret, unwitting slave army program.
So what's the goal of the aliens or the government when people are abducted? What are they hoping to achieve by that? And what is the reasoning behind the abductions?
Well, I think that, based on my time in the military, I worked for the Department of Defense as an active duty Army intelligence analyst, and then as a private contractor, and I worked at the major commands. And while I was in the government sector, I learned that they don't really usually do one program just, to accomplish one thing. A program or an operation or a special access project usually has several different, outcomes that they're looking for, several different reasons why they're even doing the project. So in looking at the UFO abduction and the agenda of probably the global military-industrial complex, if you want to call that. Eisenhower said, beware the military-industrial complex. Well, it's grown since his time, and it's really the global military-industrial complex. And I would imagine that the agenda for the different alien races is going to vary, both, possibly research, control, like we talked about a little bit ago, a sleeper army. But there's also a long-term agenda. Really, there's the New World Order agenda also that the government might be headed towards. And if you look at, if you've ever studied Masonry and any of the, the history of the United States and the people involved, you'll see that right now we are in the middle of the Third World War, which is a global war on terror that started probably, right around the first attack in the early 90s on the World Trade Center. And then it was really kicked off strong on 9/11 when the trade towers were allegedly taken down by Islamic radicals. And if you know anything about the history of the United States of America's Department of Defense, they've always played both sides of the war, because you have to control both sides in order to control the outcomes that you want and the money that you want to make off of it and the way that you want to control the land. So if you look at what the military, why they might be involved in the alien abduction scenario, you remember Reagan speaking years ago about how, we might have this outside threat from another world that's going to bring our species together so that we coalesce.
Right.
So we're headed towards that New World Order, and that's one of the major parts of the alien agenda.
Now, if the if the abductions are occurring and the aliens in the military are working hand in hand, then does that mean that the rumored underground bases are indeed there? Is the base at Dulce, New Mexico there?
I believe the base definitely under Denver International Airport is there. Based on what I've been researching lately, is some of the bases are closing down, others are being built, and some are remaining functional because allegedly or possibly there are some major events, global events that are coming, whether they're, hurricanes, weather disasters, comet impacts. People are talking about Nibiru, a possible pole shift. So it looks like in the pipeline, there's going to be a continued series of major events that are going to cause global upheaval. And if you look at, bases like I was working on a project with a guy who worked at Cheyenne Mountain, and he was telling me that he's not a intel guy, but he was just there more as a nuclear weapons handler. And he was just happened to have access to Cheyenne Mountain, and he said it was mainly a communication center. Now, I have a personal friend who bought a retired SA-7 missile silo in Kansas and converted it into a survival bunker. If you look at survivalcondo.com, which is owned by Larry Hall, his structural engineer that helped him build out his survival condo was also one of the structural engineers that worked on the deep underground military bunker that is 2.5 miles below Denver International Airport and operates on 2 state-of-the-art mercury isotope nuclear generators. He had the Secret Service approach him one day after he had a series of conversations with Larry while they were discussing their build-out on the Kansas, SA-7 missile silo, and he just happened to be telling him about some of the things about the deep underground military bunker underneath Denver International Airport. And the Secret Service came knocking on the structural engineer's door and forced him to sign a one-sheet non-disclosure agreement, or he was going to disappear, and so would his family, and he was told never to speak about the deep underground military bunker underneath Denver International Airport ever again. And I believe there's a series of major deep underground military bunkers all over the world that basically are, the safety net where there's going to be continuity of the powers that be or the global military industrial complex that are all working together to push the agenda of the New World Order, the one world government. I think there's probably going to be a holographic 3D staged alien invasion that's going to maybe reveal some secrets about the alien agenda or some of the alien races that are maybe among us or around us that we can't see. And I think, however, a lot of that is going to be misinformation and disinformation and used as part of the New World Order agenda, which we're basically in the New World Order. It just seems like in the news that we're enemies with Russia or China, but really they're all working together just to control people.
Now, these underground bases, you call them deep underground military bases. Is this also
Correct.
places where the Bilderbergs and the other people with a lot of power and money are going to be able to continue to live in the event of some sort of disaster or the New World Order taking over? And are they going to go on to where it's safe and the rest of us are just going to be left to suffer and perish?
Yeah, I think that's probably likely what the scenario would be if a major disaster does hit. I mean, if you think about who the powers that be are, it starts at the top with the financial world. You know, the Federal Reserve banking system by the Red Shields or the Rothschilds, which is really the Bauer family that teamed up with Adam Weishaupt that started the Illuminati, or the Bavarian order of the sect of the Illuminati. And from that point, when they started controlling the printing of promissory notes, which, all Federal Reserve notes are promissory notes. They're not really money. Real money is gold and silver. So it's the major banking families globally, along with all of their partners in crime, like, the major corporations, the defense corporations, the generals who work are at the top of the different departments of defense, all have control over the planets militarily and financially. And all of those people work together. I've actually worked on a project with members of the Steve Miller Band and, world famous rock and roll band. And one of the members was invited to go to the Bohemian Grove, and he went. And then we were working on a film project together that he was producing, and I was an actor in. And we were talking about that. And he said, "I'm never going back to Bohemian Grove again because I don't want to get bleep, bleep, bleeped in the butt." And so he said that like 4 or 5 times, and I said, "All right, I get your point, man. I don't know what goes on at Bohemian Grove, but I've only heard the rumors." So, it's kind of meetings like the Bilderbergers, like you mentioned, the Council of 13. I guess there's a round table. There's all of these different groups that all work together to control different aspects of the powers that be, the global military-industrial complex, and the people around the world. But above all that, we're likely living in a computer simulation. So what does it all really mean?
Yeah. How does it all tie together? I tell you what, we're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We got to take a short break, and we're going to be right back on the Halls of Justice right after this.
Are you getting married or know somebody that is? Do you need a DJ for your party special event? Well, Music Masters Entertainment. Music Masters Entertainment has been in business since 1984 and have performed at hundreds of weddings. Music Masters Entertainment offers the complete sound and light show. They will MC your wedding reception, birthday party, class reunion, or whatever your needs are. Music Masters Entertainment. Look them up online at musicmastersentertainment.com. And that's music with a K. MUSIKMASTERS. musicmasters.com. Or you can find them on Facebook at www.facebook.com/musicmasters. Music Masters has 3 packages and can fit anybody's budget. Music Masters Entertainment. Let them provide a musical atmosphere for your wedding, reception, or any special event.
Would you like to be a sponsor or advertise on the Halls of Justice? Email us today at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. That's Halls of Justice, spelled JUSTUS, at roadrunner.com. If you have a show idea or like to be a guest, you can email us as well at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. This is the Halls of Justice. He is your host, Justus.
And we're back on the Halls of Justice. Hey, if you have a question or a suggestion, be sure you email us. It's Halls of Justice, and you spell that Justus at roadrunner.com. Tonight we're talking with Ronald Farnham, and when we left off at the break, we were talking about how this thing that we call life, everything that we hold dear to our hearts, may just be a computer simulation. Somebody's playing war games with us. We're a giant game of The Sims. Ron, what happens when the game's over?
You know, that's something that my wife and I have been discussing. When we die, you know, do we just get recycled as a soul back into the simulation, or do we just go to another dimension? What light should we go toward? Do you go towards the yellow light or the white light or the silver light? There's a lot of different theories out there. I think that, you know, I don't know if you've heard about the Mandela effect, but it seems like what's been happening is that there's been, I guess, rewritings in the code of the simulation, and so things about our past have changed, that people, you know, notice in different movies. Some people think, you know, in Star Wars, Darth Vader said, "No, I am your father," instead of Luke, "I am your father." Just a whole bunch of different things. And when you, in all different kinds of products like cereals and foods and television shows and movies, show that the reality that some people are living in is different than the reality that other people are living in, and we're seeing that there's some type of a possible glitch or alteration of our current reality. And if it's a simulation, that means the code is being changed. And if we are living sentient souls, and let's say the power goes down on the computer program that's, you know, whatever's running this simulation, and it shuts down, or let's say once the game is over, maybe, who knows, maybe this is like some simulation game called the Bible game, and we're all going to live and go through all of the trials and tribulations and revelation, and we're going to have an Armageddon and 1,000 years of peace, and then a second coming of the Messiah, or, you know, at the end of 1,000 years of peace, who knows what? We might even ascend to another vibration, into another reality. We don't know, but I guess the bottom line question is do we really have a soul? Is that soul infinite? And once this life is over, are we going to go into another life? Because if we're not solid and physical like we were talking about before, then we're just a soul having an apparent physical experience, and we are actually in heaven or hell or whatever we make of it, and we're ghosts to beings in other dimensions, and beings that cross over into our dimension might appear as ghosts to us, or there might be residual energy or parallel iterations of this game crossing paths within the same simulation that we might see as ghosts or apparitions or something like that. The bottom line really, though, is, are we a soul that lives forever after this life? Because we are a soul. We're having an apparent physical experience right now.
Now, I've wondered that myself. I've wondered that question more and more the older I get. What happens after you pass on? So some of the scientific minds like Michio Kaku say there are different levels of civilization. Do we move up to the next level of civilization after we pass on? Does our civilization as a whole eventually make it to the next level?
Well, one is, I guess, see now, one is an individual thing, I guess, and one is a collective thing. From an individual standpoint, it's my understanding that as a light body, we are a light body with, you know, a chakra system. Our chakra system that runs from the bottom of our feet up, you know, several feet above the top of our head, and then out around our arms, and we have like a sphere of electromagnetic influence of our chakra body. So that's our gigantic soul, and then we take this physical form as whatever we are as a human. And I believe based on the different colors that we emit, based on how our chakras are, the purity of each one, how they're spinning, I think that really determines what wavelength we operate in. And as our chakras change color, then we vibrate with a certain color frequency and wavelength, and we would then operate in that frequency, in that apparent reality. And, it might not be going up or down, or really in any direction. It's just a matter of what colors you are and where you're vibrating, and then in what frequency you're vibrating. So instead of maybe looking at it as like up or down, worthy, less worthy, good, bad, look at it more as this is what you're vibrating at, and this is where you're going to vibrate, basically according to probably the laws of light, energy, and the laws of nature. And so as a whole, birds of a feather flock together, and as a species and as our planet, we're all going to be very likely mingling and commingling and living with beings that are also vibrating and radiating at the same spectrum and vibration. And so this is where we all are. I guess I would say maybe if you look at it from the 100 monkey syndrome, or where once one of us has a certain color come into our chakra system, and then it spreads around us to other beings, and we start vibrating or emitting at a certain wavelength, then we may, as a species, move into another vibration. To judge it as good or bad, up or down, high or low, I don't know if that's how I want to think about things anymore from that perspective.
So, you believe our souls is energy, then, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I really believe anymore. I believe that we are, yes, our awareness is our energy, and our light body is this being. But I don't know if it's a soul or not. We could be just a computer code.
Yes, we could. So if we're light energy, our awareness, we'll call it, and if energy continues, can't be uncreated,
right?
Then when we end this stage, when we die, I don't know what you would call it in the computer simulation, when we pass on, then where does that energy go? Does it go out and become Palladians, or what happens to the energy, I guess? I guess that's the big question everyone would like to know.
I know that, and that's one of the bottom line thoughts that I come from it, too, is, if we are an energy, just a ball of energy, an energy source, and energy can't be created or destroyed, just transmuted into something else, like I guess that's one of the basic laws of thermodynamics, then that's kind of like our, fallback answer. Hey, that's okay, because energy can't be created, destroyed, so we're energy and we're going to live forever. Right. And that's what we've been told. And I'm starting to wonder, though, can we believe everything or anything that we've ever been told, especially by the Department of Education, which is a department of a corporation. So, let's really think about this. Are we really alive? Are we really energy? If we're living in a simulation, which, is very probable, then are we a separate entity or energy form as each individual soul on the other side that has said, hey, I'm going to play in this game, and I'm going to go jump into this simulation, and it's like 100 years, and you think you're living some life, and you're really in a computer program, and we go and live this, and then when we think we're dead, we just pop out of it, kind of like how Neo wakes up in the, when they pull him out of the incubator and they bring him back, to life and show him what his human body really is. We unplug, and now we're in this real world where we're beings, and we could possibly die, and then do those beings that we might be have souls, or are we just here in a physical world with souls? So, there's only one. I mean, it's either yes or no. We either live forever as a soul and go have an infinite number of lives, or we think we're alive right now, but we're just kind of maybe an electromagnetic, biomechanical thing that is going to, when it dies, that is it. No more awareness of this life or past lives or future lives. So it's one or the other. I kind of hope that it is infinite, where I'm going to go live a whole bunch more lives with soulmates and go in different simulations maybe, or to different planets. That's what I'm hoping for. But I don't know the truth. And I'm seeking the truth, though. I would really like to find out who does know the truth. And the more I look in that direction, the more I think that these governments, these corporations that are posing as governments, they're the ones that are sitting on the truth, and it's hidden somewhere, but they're not sharing it with us.
So where would God play into all of this then? If our two possibilities are, it's a computer game, and when it's over, and we're gone forever. Or B, we're energy, and we're going to go on and have infinite number of lives.
Well, either way, in either scenario, there's a creator. So there's something or some group that has created this simulation, or there's a creator that has created all of reality. And as we know now, reality is really light energy combining with dark matter. And that's what CERN is doing. They're smashing atoms together, trying to figure out what dark matter is, what holds light energy into form. And then there's our awareness. So you got those three things. So I kind of think that if we're physical and this is real and there is a God, then God is the creator of all light, because the signal of intelligence is carried through light wavelength. Like, whatever interacts with dark matter, it propagates itself as all the different things that we see physically. And then you have dark matter, which is also probably, from the creator. I think it's a multifaceted beingness that is light energy, dark matter, and then awareness that has been broken down into an infinite number of different parts, I guess, that can experience life through light and dark energy interacting with each other. So really, then we would be God, or aspects of God, with all of the same power and all of the same capabilities, and ultimately connection to the all-knowing awareness and source of all information and intelligence. If it's just a computer game or a simulation, then there's still something that created that, maybe a team of beings that are trillions of years more advanced than we are, that have created this thing, and we might just be nothing really, and so we're at the mercy of whatever that game is, and when it's over, it's over. But I don't know.
Well, hopefully we make it to the bonus level in the game.
Yeah, I plan on it. Tracy and I, my wife, we talked about, and my producing partner, Tracy's my wife and producing partner, we discussed that. It's like, well, when we die, we've been looking at information that says, don't go to the white light, go to the silver light, because the silver light is the way out of a trap, and the white light is kind of a recycling area where you go back and you're spit right back into this simulation. So
I've heard people, just recently, I've heard people say almost the same thing, saying that they had a near-death experience and they had awoken with the feeling of going towards the bright white light was bad.
Right.
Take it for what it's worth. Yeah. I don't know. I've never been there. So
me either.
We're going to shift gears in just a minute here, but I wanted to get your opinion on one thing, because we're talking about people who control the corporations that are posing as governments. Your thoughts on George Soros, because his name seems to be on everything causing upheaval right now.
I was working on a project for the people who were basically stolen from by the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the whole mortgage debacle that happened. And George Soros was a part of that, and Steve Mnuchin was a part of that. And they just robbed America. And George Soros is basically a major war criminal who's part of the powers that be in the global military-industrial complex. And he's a criminal, just like every other politician and every other CEO of the corporations that are posing as governments. So he's definitely a big part of the system that's in place, that's working towards the agenda that is currently in full swing. Everything that you hear on in the media, everything that you hear on the news or read in newspapers or that makes its way onto television and cable is all carefully worded and carefully planned and there for a purpose and part of a psychological operations program to keep people seeing the world in a certain way. So yeah, George Soros is a big part of the group. He's a major player, and I'm sure he is probably, working behind the scenes to facilitate all kinds of different activities that are pushing the agenda forward. Yeah. But really the main culprit behind what's going on our planet as far as it being a slave planet and the global military-industrial complex and the powers that be having control over everybody is actually the ignorance of the masses who are completely ignorant due to massive brainwashing and media rhetoric that has got people thinking like being a citizen, for instance, is a good thing. When you're a citizen with a Social Security number and you have nationalism kind of, programmed into you, like, hoorah, wave the American flag and let's go USA and God love our military and all this stuff. This is really just a form of psychological operations that are getting people to give away their power to a corporation that's posing as a government. Actually, the word government literally translates to control mind. Govern means control, and mentis is Latin for mind. So you have a mind control corporation, every posing as governments all over the world. They're all corporations. They all have a Department of Defense, and they all have a Department of Education. And those departments of those corporations, the Department of Education indoctrinates us into our nationalism and into history. And the Department of Defense keeps everybody in line. It's like basically a world police. And then you have the police officers for these governments who are actually operating fraudulently because, like their name's Sergeant Smith who writes you a traffic citation. He can't go buy a house with that name, Sergeant Smith. That name is not even registered with the Secretary of State of the state in order to be able to do any business. When you register a fictitious name, any name, it's got to be registered to do business. That's why a police officer won't let you see his driver's license, because he doesn't want you to know who he really is, because that's the only real identification he has. Everything else is just some made-up badge that his office gave to him to go out and extort money from people on the side of the road by turning on his lights and using offer and acceptance and honor and dishonor to push people into a corner where they either have to sign a contract against their will or go to jail. And that's happening all over the world.
Yeah. So, getting back to the brainwashing.
Yeah.
Do you think people become, brainwashed by mainstream media? And I already know the answer to this. And then, what about the alternative news? Alex Joneses, the Clive Lewises, the Art Bells. Are they more truthful, or are they being controlled as well from the top?
That's a really good question, and it's difficult to answer because I've gone through my stages of, do I believe Alex Jones? Should I trust David Icke? Do I think George Norrie sold down? Do I think Art Bell, got basically pushed out of the business? I mean, if you look at what George Norrie's doing with Gaiam and Gaia TV. You know, Gaia is owned by the guy who started AOL, so it's a major business. When I see people involved in it from a money standpoint, in fact, I almost went and saw David Wilcock speak up in Boulder a couple of weeks ago, but they were sold out for Gaia. I wonder what the agenda is. And I've contacted all of those people. I've contacted David Icke. I've contacted Alex Jones. I've contacted Gaia. And some of the other major conspiracy theory genre show hosts and speakers, and I've been sending out my solution that I found on how to take down the global military-industrial complex and end war and poverty. And in fact, part of the solution I sent to the National Security Agency when I was a contractor at Headquarters Special Operations Command as the active Pathfinder trainer for Special Forces analysts. And NSA had contacted me asking me about a specific terrorist situation, how to handle it, and I sent them a plan on how to end terrorism. They didn't want to stop terrorism. They wanted to continue war, so I resigned. But if you look at the agenda and the people behind everything, you know, like I said before, I don't think anything gets into the media unless, whether it's alternative media or mainstream media, unless it's pre-approved by the powers that be. So I don't really know. I've sent out my solution to a lot of people who should be more concerned about how to end this tyranny and the slavery on our planet, but I'm not getting a response. So, and I want to be interviewed on those shows too, because I want to put out this solution, and it's very simple. And it's basically, we turn the other cheek on the global military industrial complex. And there's a step-by-step way to do it. So I don't know if I can trust Alex Jones and his kind and David Icke. You know, are they just selling out, or are they really trying to solve a problem and come up with a solution? I haven't heard one of them, not one of them, say, all right, here's a step-by-step solution on how we can really end war and poverty on Earth. Here's how we can stop, you know, tell all the police and military to quit. I mean, why isn't Alex Jones or David Icke asking for every military member and every police officer to resign and rejoin the human race? I mean, it's very simple to figure out. If you want to know where the problem starts, it starts with police and military power. So if you cut the head off of the snake and take its power away from it, then we can regain control as sovereign human beings and start living in a, you know, mentally healthy world again. But right now it seems pretty psychotic.
Ronald Farnham's our guest. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back for our final segment of the Halls of Justice. And remember, if you want to contact us, you can email us, or you can tweet us, or you can Facebook us. Twitter is @Halls of Justice. Facebook is the same, and the email is hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. We're going to be right back. Stick around.
Would you like to be a sponsor or advertise on the Halls of Justice? Email us today at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. That's Halls of Justice, spelled JUSTUS, @roadrunner.com. If you have a show idea or like to be a guest, you can email us as well at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. This is the Halls of Justice.
And we're back. It's the Halls of Justice. Nice to have you along tonight. Our guest is Ronald Farnham. And I want to ask you, what is the true shape of the Earth?
That's a good question. And I've alluded a little bit so far to what the answer might be. You know, up until about 1500, everybody really believed that the Earth was flat. And in the Bible, it says we're living on a firmament and covered by a dome that's got water on top of that. So what do we go with? And what does recent science tell us? Well, first of all, I contacted the Jet Propulsion Lab, and I called NASA, and I asked them, because I was editing a feature film, Hollywood Environment, I'm almost done with, and I told them I wanted some video footage of the Earth out in space, spinning on its axis. And they told me they don't have any video footage of the Earth spinning on its axis out in space. Can you believe that? So after that, I started looking, and I had started looking into the flat Earth, and had come to find out that many of the images that we have of Earth are really just airbrushed artwork. They're inconsistent. One doesn't look the same from the other, and we have no video footage of the Earth spinning on its axis in space. And NASA, JPL, told me that we've never been out of low Earth orbit. And I recorded that conversation, and I put it on YouTube. So why aren't we also allowed into Antarctica? My wife and I were being scouted by the Sci-Fi Channel, and a producer had pitched us to the show, and we were going to do our first show as the Truth Seekers, and we were going to fly from the tip of South America straight to the South Pole, right out through the other side of the South Pole, out the other side of Antarctica, to the west coast of Australia. We wanted to do one fly-through just to prove whether or not the Earth was a spinning globe. So right now there's no evidence that the Earth is a spinning globe. And if you look at somebody like Eric Dubé's information, he's got 200 proofs why the Earth is a flat plane. So there's a strong possibility that we're living on a flat plane that goes on infinitely, but it might not go on infinitely, because if we're living in a simulation, then we're living in a simulation where the parameters of the simulation are that we're living in a flat plane that has boundaries, kind of like in the movie The 13th Floor. I have a very close relative who works for NASA, and my wife and I were asking this relative about, the truth. And that relative said, watch The 13th Floor, the movie, The 13th Floor, which basically goes on to show that we're living in a computer simulation. And that was this guy's, a relative, his explanation. So is the Earth flat? Is it a spinning globe? Is it a hollow tube with an inner Earth inside of it? That's one of the other major theories. You look at someone like Admiral Byrd, who went to the Antarctic on major military missions in the 30s and 40s, and said that there's more land beyond Antarctica than we've ever even found. It's bigger than North American continent. So what's going on in Antarctica, and why aren't we allowed in there? Is it a portal into the inner Earth that has an inner sun? So the possibilities are we're living on a flat plane, we're living in a simulation, we're living on a spinning globe, but we've got no proof of that, or we're living on a hollow Earth that has an inner sun with an entire civilization or series of civilizations living inside of it. So right now, my wife and I are kind of we're still waiting to hear back from the Sci-Fi Channel if they're going to give us our own show, with our first episode being that of proving one way or another the shape of the Earth by flying from the tip of South America through to the South Pole, out the other side, and to Australia.
Well, I've seen a lot of the flat Earth theories, and I do have to say, while I believe the Earth is round, the flat Earth theories are very compelling. They do make a lot of good points.
Yeah.
So my next question is, if we're living on a flat Earth, did we indeed go to the moon, and is the moon real?
I think if we're living on a flat plane, a flat Earth, a flat plane, then we're covered by a dome, then what we're seeing in the sky, like for instance, what do you think space looks like during the daytime? Like, we can't see out in the space. We only see one perspective, one side of the universe at night. We only just see that one. We've never seen the sun and the universe in the daytime. But if the moon and the stars, I think, are holograms, and the sun is also that. In fact, my wife practices sun eating now. She stares into the sun for, what are you up to, like 20 minutes? I think she's up to about 20 minutes now. She'll stare at the sun into either an hour before or an hour after sunrise or sunset. So it's not so intense, but she can see it. She looks at it now, and it looks like it's got like kind of ridges around it, and it's a lot smaller than what we're seeing, and she's able to stare into it. Now, our whole lives have been programmed, hey, don't stare into the sun. You don't want to even look at the sun because it'll tear your eyes up. So it looks like it's a powerful tool, I guess, or light source that is part of, I guess, a series of lights that are up in this dome above us if we're living on a flat plane that's covered by a dome.
So did Stanley Kubrick fake the moon landing? Is that why many of the astronauts refused to talk about it?
You know, if you look at the movie The Shining, I'm sure you've seen the video and how it explains. If you go on YouTube and you look up Stanley Kubrick's message in The Shining, is his way of saying that he did the fake moon landing. If you look at little Danny, he's wearing an Apollo space sweater, an Apollo, the Apollo 13, the one that went to the moon. He's wearing the moon mission sweater. If you look at the different rooms that are used and a lot of the symbolism from that movie, a lot of people believe that Stanley Kubrick was sending a message out there that he was the one that helped direct using, I guess, rear projection technology in a studio out in Reseda, out in the valley in Hollywood, to stage the fake moon landings. I think it's possible. I've said this from the beginning now. I no longer trust anything that the government or the mass media has told me, and the Department of Education. We don't even really know if our history is true. I mean, could you really go back more than 200 years and find some, first source information on the truth about historical events that were being taught in school? How do you really know what the truth is? I mean, if you look at the history of the United States, we all worship the Constitution, but the Constitution is really articles of incorporation for a company. And the preamble to the Constitution is the executive summary. And it even says, "We, the people of the United States, establish and ordain for the United States of America." So you have a series of countries called the United States that are governed by governors that created a corporation that's run by a president, because corporations are run by a president. And you have the mass media, making a big deal out of this whole election where a new CEO is hired for a corporation. So everything's just one big lie. And I've pretty much thrown out the window everything I was ever taught in school. And just my wife and I were just doing research now and looking to find out the truth. And it seems like the only way to get to the truth is to uncover the people who are holding it. It looks like a lot of the information is being kept from us due to the term national security. So I think there are truths out there that are all being held by corporations posing as governments and then using police and military power to keep us out of the vaults of information that we are entitled to as human beings.
Yeah. We only have a few minutes left, so we're going to I'm going to try to do a few rapid fire questions here, and we'll try to do some brief answers.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do my best at that.
The FEMA camps, are they real?
Yes, I think FEMA camps are real, and I think Jesse Ventura started getting too close to information, and they pulled his show, and I believe the FEMA camps are real, and we are one of the most highly imprisoned cultures in the world here in the United States.
Albert Pike, and I know I'm shorting you on time here, and I'm kind of familiar with him. Tell me why he's so important to the New World Order, the NWO.
Well, Albert Pike was a general for the United States of America. He was also a traitor, and he was pardoned after he gave the president who pardoned him his 33rd degree Masonic degree. Albert Pike wrote a letter that described all three world wars, and he gave the letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, the founder of the Mafia. Mafia means Mazzini approves fire, torture, and burning. I mean fire, torture, and strangulation. And right now we're following Albert Pike's three world wars scenario to the T, and the global war on terror is supposed to, which is the Third World War, is going to eliminate Christianity and radical Islam or fundamentalist Islam at the same time, and then the Luciferian doctrine is going to come out from that, which is going to be the worship of light energy and dark energy, what we've been talking about, which is really just a revealing of the truth. And so religion is pretty much going to go away after this global war on terror. And this is all according to Albert Pike's three world war scenario. Just look up Albert Pike.
Yeah, a ton of info on him online there. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time. Ron.
Oh, that's okay. Hey,
I could go another 2-3 hours with you, so I'm going to have you back on one of these days.
Awesome.
and we could just sit around and talk about some more issues. I mean, we've probably got another, like I said, 2 or 3 hours worth of material we could go over and go back and forth on. But unfortunately for this week, this is the end of the Halls of Justice for this week. Ron Farnham is our guest. Ron, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
They can email me, ronaldrussellfarnham@gmail.com, and that's Russell is 2 S's and 2 L's, and Farnham is Farnham. Or they can just look up one of my books on Amazon. I have a great book, How to Write a Screenplay in 30 Days or Less, and my name will be right there. Just look up How to Write a Screenplay in 30 Days or Less. It teaches you how to write your screenplay, how to turn your screenplay into a book, how to publish the book, and then how to make your screenplay into a movie or sell it to a studio. And I have some other books out there, too, and some DVDs and some movies. So if you just look up my name, you can email me. And my phone number is on the cover of my How to Write a Screenplay in 30 Days or Less book. In case you have problems with your screenplay, you can just call me and leave a message, and then I'll call you back, and we can discuss what the issue is with your screenplay.
Awesome. So, Ron, thanks for coming on the show tonight. We'll get you back on here quickly. This is the Halls of Justice, and we'll be back to wrap the show up in just 1 second.
Would you like to be a sponsor or advertise on the Halls of Justice? Email us today at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. That's Halls of Justice, spelled Justus, at roadrunner.com. If you have a show idea or like to be a guest, you can email us as well at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. This is the Halls of Justice.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Halls of Justice this week. Thanks to Ron for coming on and being a great guest. And remember, if you would like to advertise on the Halls of Justice, if you would like to be a guest, if you have a show idea, or you just want to contact the show in any way, the best way to do it is through email. And email us at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. And you spell justice, Justus, like just us. So I look forward to your emails, and we'll see you next week when we will have a palm reader on the show. Many of you have submitted handprints, palm photographs. I sent all those off to her. She's going to pick the best 5. I don't know which 5 they're going to be, but she's going to pick the best 5, and we'll have her on with all the results next Friday. That's when the podcast comes out, right here on the Halls of Justice. In the meantime, I ask, if you like the show, please like our Facebook page. Just search at Halls of Justice. If you like the show, like our Twitter feed. Again, it's at Halls of Justice. So please get out there, do that. Subscribe to our feeds. Like the show. Download the show. Refer your friends to the show. We got to get the fan base built way up there so we can continue with our great guests. I am Justus. This is the Halls of Justice. We'll see you next week, everybody.
This is the Halls of Justice.